Welcome to Dadtrepreneur, the podcast tailor-made for the modern man balancing personal development, business, and family. This is Dadtrepreneur.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dadtrepreneur podcast, where we talk about all things man, even the stuff men don't want to talk about. I'm your co-host, Billy G.
What's going on, guys? I'm Jared.
And today's topic, we wanted to speak about finding yourself after having children. I think a lot of us, when we have kids, there's a big anticipation that leads to that final moment where you have them, and then you know your life is going to change, but you don't realize just how much your life actually changes until that little baby is in your life. On today's episode, we do have a special guest. We have Jason on. I knew Jason. I know his wife from when we were little kids. Jared knows him through mutual friends, and he is the father of a special needs child. So we figured that he would offer a really unique perspective to this topic.
Yeah, I figured, have him on, let him talk a little bit about his story, and then see where it goes.
Yeah,
right?
so we could see where we have differences and where we have similarities, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate you having me on, and look forward to doing it.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So tell us a little about yourself, man.
All right. So, my daughter's 5 now. She was born in 2018, and that was my only daughter. And, she has special needs. She has Down syndrome. 5 years now. It's been quite the roller coaster of stuff going on and, finding our bearings and parenting on different styles, communication. So it was a unique experience for sure. A lot of people think you see people with special need kids, autism on the spectrum, Asperger's, Down syndrome too included, but you never think that could be you. So running back to 2017, I would just start a new job, whatever the case was. Bianca was doing her checkups, things like that. And she called me, she went to her cardiologist appointment. So we always check in, say, hey, how's it going? And then she said, hey, we'll talk over lunch. So, of course, I'm freaked out because, it's like we'll talk in person.
It wouldn't be. Yeah.
You know something's up.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay. And, of course, me, by nature, I'm just a constant worry overthinker. So I'm like, okay, trying to figure out what could be wrong. She went, and we remember we were sitting down, and I never forget, we were, I think, at Shake Shack. And she told me that the cardiologist had found AV defect in her heart. And that usually leads to the telltale to Down syndrome. So... they say within a 50% chance they do additional testing, but we'll cross that bridge, but something to keep an eye on. So, of course, we were super, confused and a lot of emotions going on. I remember briefly just thinking, okay, well, what are the odds of this happening? Not me. So time went on, went to their testing, and, there's other testing they can do to verify it, but it's also very invasive that can damage the child or the fetus, or whatever you want to call it. And, we decided not to do that. Whatever happens, we'll just take it as it comes. So fast forward, and we were very optimistic, and some people find God or religion to turn to. That's not my forte. So in my research, and a lot of research you find on first glance on the internet is super archaic. It's not very to our generation as far as information goes, and it seemed like a life sentence. So I was super terrified at first. I kind of balled it in. Bianca and I were trying to just keep each other coached up. Hey, be good, be positive, and we both knew it was scary and something we never expected before. So fast forward to April, she was born. It was a C-section, and within 5 minutes, she was out. All the things of having a kid is big moment, blink of an eye. And they told right there she did have it. And then she was admitted to the NICU, where she was there for about 3 months, 90 days.
Wow.
So on top of that, between, I was working full time, she was home. But, every day outside of work, we were at the NICU at West Boca, clockwork every day.
Why was she admitted to the NICU?
Because of her heart defect.
You said it was AVD?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
AV defect, an atrioventricular canal. It's a one-way valve.
Okay.
So it pushes the blood out, but it was going backwards, so it can cause backflow.
Oh, okay.
So to leave the NICU, your kid was in the NICU.
For 10 days.
They had to show fit to thrive. They had certain criteria. So, the first, maybe a couple days, things like that, and then it became a couple weeks. And then a couple weeks became a couple months. And there was a lot of... tomorrow looks pretty good, and then something happened. She wasn't feeding. So then we started to scale it back all over again. So it was a yo-yo of emotions, and wanted her to come home, but also making sure she was, healthy. And I was, in the NICU, some kids don't come home. It's super terrifying.
Yeah.
So, and by almost the 3rd month, stars lined up, and she was good, and she was out, and she was home. And we thought, okay, cool. This is behind us. We're done. Life starts here. And that really wasn't the case. We knew surgery was on the table and other things that we're going to face. So, mind you, when she was born, that 3 months, I bought books and learned about stuff and just having a parenting book and things like that. But then it became, special needs kids too. So I started reading these books and they weren't really speaking to me in my kind of lingo or things that I kind of identified with and resonated with as far as, parenting skills. And I was like, well, I can tell this stove's hot. I got to find it for myself. So I stopped reading the books. I'm like, well, I'll figure it out with her. We'll do it together because that's just the way I work.
Yeah.
And the first, just like you guys talked about before, when your kids are born, you think, oh, it's going to click. And then it's mostly mom. You're just kind of hanging out there and standby and stuff.
I felt like a stranger.
Yeah.
I really did.
You're like, the way I do stuff. And the first time I like had her after work, I was like, is she breathing? I mirrored her nose, making sure.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like super alarming. I'm like, I'm not qualified to do this. And
Yeah, same.
so, it was a learning cycle. And one thing she's taught me for sure, which I never had before, is patience. So that was that first hurdle of kind of getting my footing there with her. And still, it was kind of touch and go. And then at 5 months, she had open heart surgery. And that was, we thought, okay, we're good, whatever. And that was, I think, like a 16-hour surgery over in.
My God.
I can't even imagine.
I can
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously it's impossible for me to compare, but 10 days in the NICU for me was torturous, so I can't imagine 90 days.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you get out, you think you're at the finish line and everything's going to start, kind of rock and roll. And then she has to go in for surgery.
And you're right back in
16 hours.
Yeah, and my daughter had 2 surgeries.
Really?
So she's had 2 eye surgeries. When me and Samantha were looking into it, like we tried all the therapy and stuff. She has strabismus.
Yeah.
So it's not a lazy eye, but it's like where the muscles of the eyes are too strong on the outside. So it'll pull one kind of out like that.
Yeah.
Right? So we did all the therapy and stuff. And, the doctor's like, look, man, like she needs to have the surgery. And dude, I don't think I've ever been more emotionally messed up in my entire life than the moment when they took her from me, and like they're putting stuff down her throat to make her calm down. And then like me and Samantha are sitting in the waiting room, just like I had to get up and walk around. Like it was miserable. And then we had to do that twice.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the second time was a little easier, but that first time, man, I will never forget how I felt that day. So, and he's going in there for 15 minutes and like clipping a little muscle in her eye and that's it. So, you're talking about something as major as a heart surgery for your little child. It's just, I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
I can't.
And you said she was 5 months old?
Yeah, 5 months old.
Wow. Yeah.
So when we took her there and stuff, like, again, we were in that, looking back at it now, we looked at like, oh man, we went through some stuff. But in the moment, you're just day by day, just one foot in, one out. And so while we were doing the heart surgery, I remember Pace, my sister, drove back down. She was up in North Florida. And it was the longest 16 hours of my life. I'm just walking around, back and forth. I was a closet smoker, so I had to go drive like 3 miles north from someone that didn't see me and stuff. And I was like super stressed out and anxiety, just anyone else would be. But also, I still got to be a rock
present.
for my wife.
Yes.
And be present.
Yes.
Be mindful of that, and not just me. We're all going through this too. And she and I remember when they brought her into her room. It was crazy. She's tubed up and cracked open, huge zipper stitch. And it was absolutely heartbreaking. But that kid is strong as nails. She took it like a champ, and the next day they took her tube out and stuff, and the road to recovery there was a little better. It was not as bad as a NICU, but those things when you go through like some kind of, I guess, traumatic experience, you always think it's going to be the same thing again. We're going to be back in the yo-yo thing. It's going to be 3 months again. And thankfully, the staff there was amazing. We were out within a couple of days, and road to recovery was pretty good. And then from there, we started like therapy for speech and physical therapy. And Bianca has been an absolute champion she's the reason why Mia has done so well, because she runs the restaurant, so she works nights most of the time, but the daytime she's dedicated to just what you learn in therapy with your kids stuff too. Some parents just drop off their kid and that's it. So if you're not end up putting the same thing at home, you're not going to get the same advantage on that. So
I actually can totally relate with that. So Charlotte ended up having a speech delay at 2 years old. She said nothing, right? And she wasn't even pointing. She would just go to like the closet or like the pantry and just freak out, right? She had no communication whatsoever. I start looking it up, and of course, first thing I see is autism, right? And I'm looking down, and I'm like, man, she's got like a lot of these, right? I bring her to a physical, bring her to a speech therapist, and I was paying for it privately for a while, which
adds up very quickly.
Man. You're talking over $1,000 a week, of just for them like to be there for 30 minutes
Yeah.
a session. And they told us they're like, look, she does exhibit some signs of autism, and we need to get on this like right now.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. I'm sure early steps.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, same thing.
early steps got involved, which is, for those who don't know, it's the state of Florida has a program called Early Steps for kids with developmental delays of all kinds, and they'll bring someone to your home. And thank God that program exists, man.
Yeah.
Because my kid now, you would never know.
Yeah.
You would never know she was
it's night and
delayed. You never know she was delayed a day. So I know what it's like to somewhat have that fear of like, okay, there could be a problem here. And like, if I don't act, the problem is going to get much, much worse.
Yeah.
And applying all those things at home, once the therapy is over, it's difficult, man. It's hard to stay on top of all that stuff.
And it goes back to, like I said, early intervention. Like a lot of things too, for those resources aren't really displayed properly to you, especially when you're, the medical system is kind of janky where that goes, where like, figure it out. And, I'm like, okay.
Do your own research, man.
Yeah, man.
If you're not your kid's advocate, nobody is.
Yeah, and especially on service values, the research you find is like whatever has the most Google hits. So you're going to get in some stuff that may be misconstrued or may apply to your state. So like that, the early step program is phenomenal. And she really thrived with that stuff too. But yeah, find the information at any kind of fad, it's kind of like a maze because you got to figure one way, call this person, things like that. So you're going back and forth constantly to find what you need to have. And that makes a huge difference, like you said. You catch it early on, you can nip in the bud. Or get ahead of it, kind of thing.
So aside from, you said the number one thing you learned or had to learn, I guess, was patience. Aside from that, what would you say you feel is, one of the main things that you kind of had to adapt and learn relatively quickly due to the circumstances?
Honestly, I'm like handle my emotions a lot. So I'm a person who typically, still most part, I'm a very emotional driven person. So I'm upset at work, I can't hide that. So I had to put a face on the work, things like that. And that lead me to fall into, to be honest, bad habits. I was drinking a lot, constantly during the day sometimes, just not during the day, but after work, whatever the case was. But I fell into routine just because that would me just to decompress, where I thought that was the best way of doing those things. And one day, I think it was post-surgery, I realized, okay, well, things are kind of settling down here, so let's kind of take accountability and kind of pull yourself back from this, because it can go down, a really
nasty path.
And you don't realize it until you're balls deep there, and you're like, oh shit, where am I?
Been there, bro.
So that was a scary moment for myself. And Bianca, he pulled my car real quick and got me, hey, we need to get together and so on, this like that. So after that, it was mostly just kind of understanding that my path is going to be different. So we're all parents here. A to B and C, it's all going to be very different, even though same thing at the end of the day, right? So one thing for me was like learning to understand that things may take a little more time for her to get, and that's okay. Not that I had a problem with it, but just when, the first couple years when kids are younger, it's kind of a free reign as far as you go, you pick up things as you go. And then once she got to around 3 or 4, as far as speech goes and things like that, where I started seeing, okay, well, this is a little different for us. And so Bianca taught her sign language, so we did that. And so that helped us communicate, because before we weren't really communicating. It was kind of hard to understand if she's in pain or things like that. So we were constantly worrying, are you good? Especially me, by myself, I'm like, are you right?
Or as simple as like they want a certain snack.
Yeah.
If you don't have like even basic communication skills down, man, it's really
super challenging.
Yes.
So that was one thing there. And then, me getting my footing as doing things with her on her own, like going out to the stores or Costco, kids at Costco, either home run or absolute dumpster fire, one of the two. So I had to learn, again, patience with her, understanding before I get mad. Kids are kids, so I can't get mad at anybody. She's not grasping the concept, well, she wants this toy and Target, we got to leave. So things like that. And again, I was to get worked up about it. And it took me a while on my own accord to kind of navigate through that, understand like a little more, I guess, self-reflection, kind of come to all that stuff. And once from there, it's been a joy. It's been great. Like now she's talking, and now she talks too much. So it's
yes, I'm there too.
Yeah, everything is why and no and So that for most part, those first year and a half was just a ride, because you still had to maintain a work life.
Yep.
Also a marriage,
a life in general.
Most I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head, but most parent or household with kids with special needs, the divorce rate astronomically high. They don't make it. It's
just from the stress of the situation.
Stresses, and some people can handle it, some don't, and it's terrifying on top of that, because you can say you're good as you are going to be, but sometimes things can happen. I belong to a couple of groups on Facebook, and other parents, I hear these heartbreaking stories that some parents left by themselves or vice versa, the kid gets neglected. So
Yeah.
that's always anyone's fear. But, to maintain a relationship and have constant communication and constantly checking in with each other was the biggest part that made us the glue. We went through something some people don't come back from, and we did really well with it. So that's one thing I'm sure we're truly blessed to have, because some people don't get that.
Definitely not.
It's like you said, you have so many different things that you're trying to balance.
Yeah.
And then it's like a whole new thing on top of becoming a parent. It's navigating special needs aspect of that. Again, I can only imagine, but we talked about this before, but in the beginning with Luca, I feel like it took me at least 6 months before I felt like that real connection,
Yeah.
And it's not frustrating, but it was kind of like upsetting when you would see
You feel slighted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're like, why not? Like why don't I have that?
You think at first, is it me? And then you're like,
Exactly.
every dad's probably in the same boat.
Yeah.
But
No, it is. I mean,
it hits home a certain way, because everyone's situation might be different. So it's like having an outlet to talk to somebody else as a parent may say, well, mine was fine. It's very rare, but that's a thing.
Yeah. Well, the majority, I would say, at least
Yeah.
when I talk to other guys,
Yeah.
I never had a female that I spoke to that I was like, oh yeah, I didn't have a connection. It's like,
Yeah.
it's different. They're
Yeah.
brewing it.
Yeah.
They're brewing that baby, and it's immediate.
for me, like it took a while.
Yeah.
Charlotte was so attached to Samantha. I mean, for all up until Samantha passed, and like I always used to make jokes that I was like 5th place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like there was like Samantha, both grandmas, Auntie Jen, and then me.
Yeah. Bob and
like,
Daryl.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was at least the first guy on the list, but like I was way down there, man. I mean, she'd see me come in the room and like no, daddy.
I want you.
Yeah, it's like,
And
well,
the
it kills
problem
me,
too is
man,
like, you were having a crazy work schedule. The hours you have with them is very limited. So afternoon time,
Correct.
the little gremlins, they don't want to hang out too much. So like it's extra work where they want mom. And mom does a certain way. Well, I'm not mom. So finding our own little thing. Now we have our own little, Bianca gets mad because we have our own little pack together when we gang up on Bianca. But before I was like, I felt inadequate because I can't do certain things or get her to bed. She will play me like a fiddle, go to sleep. I'm tired, I'm hungry. Bianca gets home, she's in bed in 5 minutes.
yeah.
But now I got down to a science, but a lot of trial and error between now and then,
Yeah, it's a lot better. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
With the absence of her mother, I had to take on like Samantha's role.
Both roles, yeah.
And like it was really weird for me at first.
I'm sure.
It was really. I mean, I'll never forget the first bath I gave her after it happened. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know how to give her a bath. It's like horrible as that is for me to say. Like Samantha just did all that because she wanted her to do all that. It's like she literally did everything. And like I'm packing lunches the next morning for school, and like how do I even put her hair in a ponytail? Like I was just not prepared.
Sure.
For to be mom.
Yeah. How did it feel as far as like that timeline, like to get your your grounding on it now? Like you feel like you got it down to a science? How are you making what you have?
It's much better now.
Yeah.
I run a different ship than my wife did.
Are you the stern one?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yes. I don't play games.
Yeah.
And Samantha kind of did. Samantha was a kid herself.
Yeah. It's a back up. That's
she
what
was
it is.
playful. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I can be playful too. I know when it's time, but it's like, hey, you're not getting up until you finish that food.
Yeah.
Or like, okay, well, you don't want to do that? Cool. Well, you don't see grandma tomorrow. And I have to kind of like do stuff like that with her. You know what I mean?
Which sucks also.
I hate doing it, man. I hate doing it. I was like, it's so funny. I was just talking about this the other day. Like, if she just did what I said the first time, I would never have to do stuff like that.
Doesn't it suck though?
Yeah.
It happens every time.
Every time.
There's not a single time where you're like you're happy with how you reacted.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Like so like if he's not, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
If he's not eating, I'm like, all right, then you're not watching any TV. You're going straight to bed. You have to drop threats.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you immediately feel bad.
Yeah, I'll lay in bed at night, man. I was laying in bed like, God, I feel like such an asshole.
Yeah.
She's 4.
It's like the most,
tough,
yeah,
though.
it's like the most rewarding, exhausting you'll have, right? And it's like there's times I'm not perfect. All the time we get, you snap a little bit and you yell, not yell, but you
raise your voice, man.
You yell in there.
Sometimes I feel like I have to because she don't listen to the nice guy.
half the time I know it's BS. I can't do it to her. I can't yell, but I'm like, hey, and then
to them it's yelling, but
yeah,
it's
and
not
I see her just kind of like butter lip, and I feel like a complete. What did I just do that for? And then I'm upset going to bed, and she probably forget the next morning, but I remember it was like, because you learn from parenting style. Your parents were a little more, our generation, a little more strict, and those things aren't, but
night and day.
you learn what to take from them and not to. But also, you realize in that full circle moment, it's like what to do. And Mia is my twin. She's explorative and curious, which all equals like Roger Rabbit, where she's on top of the shelf in like 2 seconds. So it's it's me. I get it. So I'm paying payback now.
Yeah, it's the same thing with him. Like he's stubborn and I'm stubborn, so that's why you can only get so mad. On top of the fact that he's 3 years old.
Yeah.
But they are super smart. So that's another thing. Like they know
know
how to push your
dude.
buttons.
They know.
He'll smirk at me sometimes.
She will too. She will
and it's
too.
like, you little.
I'll be like, hey, Charlotte, don't drop this. And she'll drop it immediately.
Like
and then
a
I'll
cat.
look at her like, are you serious? And she's like, smirks at me. Like, what you going to do about it?
Yeah. Try me. Do it. I dare
What are
you.
you going to do about it, dude?
It's funny, but it's not. It's
No,
like,
yeah. In the moment, it's not funny. After, like, oh, that's great. But the moment, you're like, okay, I did this. I wanted this. I wanted this. I wanted this.
Yeah.
The worst is when you like drop the threats and then it backfires.
Yeah, they're
you
like,
know,
do
like
it.
you want to go in timeout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Guess that's
this
where we're
backfired.
going.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess
Doesn't work as well.
hang out. Yeah.
It doesn't
So I run
work.
the room, slam the door. I'm like, what just happened? Did I do this right? I don't know. That's a constant struggle there.
But, I think at least for me, and I know a lot of guys that I've spoken to, like that postpartum depression type thing, and I can imagine there was a massive amount of that for
Sure,
you,
yeah, absolutely.
just for the circumstance itself.
Yeah.
But even in a somewhat normal circumstance, I had all these thoughts going through my mind after she was born, like, what if something happens to her? How can I protect her? I remember the first time somebody had to put her in the car to go to her mom's house, I freaked out. I was like, how dare you do that without me? What if something happens? Like I automatically went into like this protector mode, and I'd never been that before, and I had like felt a love that I'd never felt before. Like the love up until that point in my life was always romantic or my mother, right? And that was the only love toward a woman that I ever knew. And now I have this little thing in my hand, and I feel this different type of love. I almost like didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to act. And it left me like very confused for a lot of months where I was like, am I like depressed right now? Because like, I don't know, like, am I supposed to feel this way?
It's almost like, said pre-kid, in your wife romantic sense and even platonic sense, people you care about, but they mostly can take care of themselves. When they have a kid involved, that becomes your Achilles heel. Like, you're not immoral anymore because that's something like, no matter what, that's your heart right there. So it definitely, weakens you in a certain way because you become soft, having kids, boys or girls.
Talk about this all the time, dude.
Yeah, man. Before, but whatever. Now I'm like, doing dumb things, speeding. Well, but I got someone at home. I gotta live for them. So that selfish act there, but it's confusing, especially girls are delicate.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think there is something special
Yeah.
about the little girl aspect, right? I mean, look, I don't know. I don't have a boy. I can't say that. But all I can say is like to know that she's this precious little flower. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. For me, it amplifies those feelings for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like also is that like we're all men, the world can be, and especially like how the world is in the current climate now is super. The more information out there for social media, you see all these crazy things, which is like you almost want to become a recluse and not go out because, but also kids gotta live their life. But at the same time, it's dangerous, it's scary, and it's also you want to protect your kid and make sure between heartbreak, other things, it's different. For her, it's like my one relationship I'm coming to is that when she's older, she's gonna ask, why am I different? And for the longest time, I was so like had a chip on my shoulder about, well, people are meeting my kid. The world is not a great place sometimes. It's cruel. But also sometimes you got to go through it, and all I can do is prepare for it instead of sheltering her, because that way I'm not doing her any better by keeping her from the world, right?
Right.
Just, that's crazy. So
I feel the same way. One day she's going to ask me, why don't I have a mom?
yeah,
What do I do?
Yeah.
Like how do I begin that conversation? How do I, like I've told her, she knows, okay. And anytime she asks where she is, I say, well, where did I tell you she was? And she'll go, heaven, right?
Yeah.
But she doesn't fully grasp what that means, right? I know it. So like just like you, like there's going to be a really uncomfortable conversation coming up one day where like, I hope I don't screw it up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, do you feel like, have you prepared yourself? Because I feel like at the same point, you're taking the same story, but you're just giving a little more information that they can digest as they get older,
Yeah.
in the context.
I've given it to her in like really little kid terms.
Yeah, and then you kind of turn up a little more.
Yeah.
Like you learn about history in your high school, and you learn about history now. Like, oh, that's not complete at all.
Yeah,
But, but it's scary, and at the same time, it's like, all right, that's one thing I've been working on is like planning for the future and things. I try to like live in the moment for, but kids, you can't do that. Clearly, you know, you gotta have what they're going. So it's it's a conversation we gotta have. And before, I used to give me like anxiety in the middle of the night, just thinking about, oh my God. But now she started kindergarten. It's been great. And I said it's gonna be a little different for us, but that's just what it is.
So I could relate to the wanting the shelter, you know, type of things. But same thing you said, like it's not gonna do them any good. You know, like I noticed that I definitely became more emotional ever since he was born. Like, and like you said, the protector in you naturally comes out. It's like sometimes I'm like overly paranoid about stuff, you know, and I catch my stuff.
Are you helicopter dead?
What's explain?
The term helicopter dead's like you're always constantly
just hovering.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've gotten better.
Yeah.
But like
It's natural.
simple as like watching him eat certain foods and stuff like that. I can't watch it because he just freaks me the hell out.
Yeah.
Like,
No matter what, please don't choke. Please don't choke.
dude, it's like my choking and you know drowning.
Yeah.
Him in a pool, constant anxiety because he has no fear. He just will go dive underwater and he thinks it's all fun and games, you know.
Yeah,
but
well, that's the boy in him, man.
Yeah.
You know, so Charlotte's way more reserved. Charlotte's way more shy.
Yeah.
She won't go in the water. She won't like, you know what I mean? I don't have to worry about like that side of it.
Yeah.
I just worry about like sickness and things like that, accidents, you know. Like she actually like pooped her pants the other night. And dude, she hasn't done that in I can't tell you how long. And she kept saying, "Oh, my belly hurt. My belly hurt." It was the night we were here for her birthday. Immediately, I'm like, "Oh my God, is something wrong?" You know, because she was kind of shivering a little bit, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, do I need to go to like the urgent care? Do we need to go to the hospital?" Like, my mind just goes down rabbit holes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
Overthinking.
I'm one of those guys. You know, I just
assume the worst.
yes. I will just start going down the rabbit hole, and then like eventually she just like stopped shaking, like laid down and threw her back asleep.
Yeah.
But like all night, I'm looking at her. You know what I mean? I'm like making sure.
It's a double-edged sword because
the
it's always
blanket
be
moves.
proactive, but sometimes kids get sick and next day they're fine. You know, it's like, or they throw up out of nowhere and they look at you. I'm like, "Are you okay?" You're like,
yeah.
"Okay."
And I don't know about you guys, but like I read all up on SIDS when she was first born.
Yeah.
Dude, the worst thing.
Terrifying.
Worst thing I
Absolutely
could have ever read.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, they just randomly die in their crib. So now
You're on that camera.
every night I'm like, okay, all right, she's breathing.
Yeah, I got the mattress that's
Yeah.
like completely breathable. I forget what the
Yeah.
it is like. It's like Swiss cheese. There's so many holes in it. I was overly
Oh
paranoid
my
in
God,
the beginning.
I
it
was
really
losing
bad.
my mind.
Yeah. Bianca bought one like on her foot that has like your heart rate, vitals. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude.
Yeah,
Losing my
outlet.
mind.
It's like that's what it was. Yeah. But you go like Bye Bye Baby's baby store. It's like you want to take your kid, right? The kid's gonna be safe, so you buy all this crap. And
Of
then
course.
6 months obsolete, never use it again. But in the beginning, you're like, I got thermal gun, making sure temperature's reading.
Yeah.
You know.
Seriously.
Thermal gun.
It's terrifying,
It's
absolutely terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, are you sure? I feel like it is.
So I mean that kind of plays into, you know, like the whole like changing of who you are after a child. Like, I don't know, man. Like I didn't think about stuff like that, you know. And like now I feel like my brain is like chess. Like I think of like 10 different moves of what may happen to
Every
make
outcome.
sure. Yeah. You know, and look, just for me, like, especially after such a traumatic experience, like I'm now even more on top
That's
of
got
it.
more
Yeah,
amplified,
you know,
for sure.
and I'm sure it's similar for you too.
Yeah.
You know, if she gets sick or something, I'm sure your brain is like, oh, you know, flashback.
But it's like, you know, accidents or anything from the past, you kind of like relive in the moment. Oh my God, this is again. And kids are kids. You know, we forget we're kids and all the dumb things we did.
Oh, I did
And
incredibly
especially
stupid
from a
things.
toddler age, but even teenagers, we all done our fair share of nonsense. Where it's like, you look back like, what was I thinking?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's also got to give a little room to fly a little bit, but at the same time, be in a safer manner, I guess. You know, it's kids, you know, you blink and in a second, they're in the room or by the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit.
They're
You know,
quick.
You got to be in your piece and like I said, be present of those things and be conscious of it because in a second it can go flip side very quickly.
You ever think about that? Like how strange it's gonna be for them to be older, you know, like
Yes.
especially teens, like what we're gonna have to put up with.
Yeah. Like, what are they going to be into? What's the world even going to be like?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, dude, the world from when we were that age, you know, in the early 90s to now is like this.
Well, that's what sucks, right? Because
not even close.
you do want to give them that freedom, but you have to be so concerned about the outside world that you can only let them do so much. You know, like even as simple as riding your bike around our neighborhood. We've had stories of people reporting that vans were like being sketchy and stuff like that. So it's like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
And what's crazy is like, dude, you know, think about when we were kids. Like, one, there were no cell phones.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I got home from school, I dropped my book bag off, and I was like, later. And like, I knew to come home when the street lights came
that
on.
was that's international time frame.
Exactly. So when the street lights came on, I knew I had to be home. Like, could you imagine doing that with your kid?
Nope.
Yeah, but the thing is too, kids don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
At all.
It's like my parents' neighborhood in Coconut Creek, like littered with kids now. It's super nice to see because before, everyone's on their phone. That's like that's where the things they're going through now. Everything's digital based, instantaneous. Where like conversations and interaction with people super different. So like going on riding your bike or being social is not really in their cards anymore, which is super weird. Like
It is.
kids aren't getting their license anymore. They just take Ubers.
Really?
I remember. I think we all have the same thing. We're like 15. You want your permit?
That's my biggest. I was
that's
so
the same.
excited for that for
Day
years,
of.
dude.
Oh yeah.
Day of.
Could you like we talked about this when my brother was on, but if you drove around this neighborhood, there's a ton of houses in here. There's a ton of kids.
Yeah.
But you would be lucky if you saw 2 to 3 in the entire neighborhood outside. I do and I don't understand it. I understand from the aspect of you're concerned, but you're in a gated community. Yeah. There's security guards.
Not to mention there are speed cameras here.
Yeah.
So it's not like people are going to be blowing
Also
it down
true.
your streets.
Yeah.
So it's like if there's like any neighborhood that kids are going to like hang out, ride bikes, and draw chalk on the ground, it's this one. And you still don't see it.
They don't. It'll only be outside, which is the crazy part. One person in a car, everyone piling that car. Now you do whatever. That's now it's a bizarre thing because that's everyone hides behind a phone or and they're a creature of home, but they don't know how to interact with people anymore. As far as like social skills and things like that, it's like very despairing.
Well, that's another huge reason why I want to. We limited screen time big time in the beginning. He had tablets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like now you have to kind of like earn it type thing.
Same here.
We don't do it at dinner anymore.
Nope.
We don't do it in the car.
No.
We used to do it way too often.
It's convenient. Hey, we're going to nice dinner. Let's chill out for a second. We can have mom, dad time where the case is.
Yeah.
So you do it, but
Correct.
Becomes a pattern. And in the beginning, everyone has a kid. Oh, my kid would never. Then you like, all right,
dude, I did it
come
all the time.
do that thing like just hang out, watch Pokemon for 5 minutes on your break. And
But there's other ways to do it too. Like we started bringing like a little bag of toys, and he's actually really good.
I was just going to say that I prefer her to play with toys because I can see her imagination.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So like whenever I give her the iPad, and I do give it to her sometimes, I make her earn it. Right. But I give her. She has like little headphones, and she'll just
zone out.
done. If
you can't even talk to him.
If I try to take it away, massive problem. Massive problem. But with the toys, she's sitting there laughing, making little conversation. She makes tea.
Yep.
It's cute. And that's good for brain development.
100%.
You know what I mean? I'd rather her be doing things like that than mindlessly staring at a tablet. And like, there is a time to mindlessly stare at a tablet.
For sure.
I do it.
Yeah, we're all guilty.
We all do it.
Doom's going for 8 hours a night.
It's when it becomes like a constant thing that I noticed a change in her behavior. Like she's more crabby.
Yep.
She doesn't want you to take it away. She's very possessive over it. And like once I started seeing that stuff, I was like, no way, man. I'm yanking that sucker back.
And like he said, you got to be concerned about their ability to interact with other people as they get older.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be like super awkward in situations and kind of not want to talk to people and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's a huge factor, like you said.
And the other thing too, it's like again, it's a double-edged sword because technology is like on the breaking edge now, where kids are like coding it. It's careers and life paths. That's great. But it's find that happy medium of like, to be able to use technology, but also not be able to live by it all day, because sometimes the first thing in the morning you wake up, you check your phone.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of it. I can't sit and say I don't. My wife would argue that to 10th power, but it is what it is. But at the
I
same
check
time,
mine constantly.
yeah, it's like also, introducing healthy alternatives, like I said, playing like those things. Imagination is a huge thing for kids,
Yes.
And eventually get older, sometimes you lose it. But to have at a young age, that reinforcement is a big thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely fun to watch that though. Like like you said, you watch them playing with toys and having full on conversations.
Yeah, it's just cute, man.
It's funny.
Or I'd rather her be drawing or coloring, like just something where she's using her hands and her brain other than just blah.
Yeah, even when he watches TV now, there's no YouTube Kids anymore.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare. Like if you watch them and watch what they're watching.
Oh, the rabbit hole.
Oh God, it's some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah, you walk by and then it's like, you hear some noise. I'm like, what is
he
this?
would watch the weirdest stuff. So now we have like like Bluey and Miss Rachel and stuff.
Yeah, Rachel's awesome.
That he's actually going to learn from. I feel like that's
there's definitely good content, just like anything on
Yeah.
TikToks, Instagram. There's definitely good beneficial content for
sure.
work stuff, life stuff, all that stuff. But there's also mindless dumb stuff that sneaks in sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what you be careful of.
and you'll
because a lot
watch
of-
it.
Well, I try to have her watch like some more, at least education, like hate on the guy, but Blippi, man.
Oh man,
for sure.
The guy
Blippi's the
at least
man.
is teaching some stuff. You know what I mean? Mika, they're making it fun, but I can tell she'll come out to her, she'll be like, look, it's a blue mountain. You know what I mean? So
like the
at least
speech
she
stuff,
interacts with it.
Yeah,
a
Miss
bit,
Rachel,
you know?
perfect example. Like the speech therapy stuff, they don't realize they're learning. They like it, so it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
You don't feel as guilty because they're learning from it, taking
Exactly.
away that too. It's like that, you know. But again, there's weird stuff that slips in sometimes, and you got to be very mindful of that because you don't catch it until you hear it in the background 2 seconds later. You know.
Yeah.
Like what's Luke into now? What's his gym?
He has his days like anywhere from Bluey to PJ Masks, which is not really educational.
No.
Blippi. But he goes through spurts, you know, where he'll be obsessed with one thing and then he wants nothing to do with it, just like typical kid.
Char2.
But he was on a streak for Daniel Tiger is another good one, which is educational. I don't know if you guys ever
No, that one.
Yeah, that's another good one. And then Daniel Tiger, Blippi, and Bluey are like the three that we kind of like try to cycle through. But it I don't know, it's tough. It's like you can't win no matter what you do, you know, like you have to like you said, you just have to find a fine balance. And I feel like that's with anything.
Yeah, and with the tablet stuff too, like to go back to that real quick, is like you got to find the happy medium of like, you know, that's what the standard kids use now, tablet, things like that. Also, you don't want to spoil your kids, but also make sure they're having certain things. It's like that things when you wanted to do you're younger, you could have. Now you can get to those kids, but you got to hold that back a little bit because too much is just too much, you know, that balance.
I remember I saw a while ago there was a post about like basically stop telling your kids that Santa got them tablets and computers and expensive stuff like that, which you know is understandable because they go to school and are like, oh, look what Santa got me. Meanwhile, the other parents can't afford to get those types of things for their children, you know?
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I never did either until I saw that. But I'm like, damn, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
it makes you
does.
feel bad.
Yeah, it does.
You know, because not everyone has the means.
Yeah.
And I completely agree. You don't want to spoil them, but you also do want to give them the life that, you know,
A good life.
exactly. Like, again, a happy medium.
Yeah, at some point too, because you know, at some point you start living vicariously through your kid. You know,
Exactly.
Watching Luke, you know, do things you know, your same passions, whether it be sports or sneakers, whatever the case is. That's a nice thing to see because okay, you know, we have that thing for them
That's
to
your
have.
bond. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're younger, when we're in high school and middle school, even you're not mindful of what other people have because you're just happy with what you have. So you're not paying attention to the kid who probably couldn't have those things. So now you're more mindful, cognizant too, which is a good point.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we just don't think about that.
Yeah. Where do you guys feel you are now, like, as a dad? You know, like, obviously, you know, when we started day one, day your kid's born to now, like, how do you feel like you've matured as a father? Like that, how do you feel like your personality has adjusted to arguably the greatest thing or biggest thing to happen in your life?
I'm sure you guys all agree that like, I have my days, you know, I have my days where I'm like, I feel like I had a really successful, good day, especially if I'm one-on-one with Luca. Like you said, it could go perfect or it could have its, you know, it could go all wrong, you know, like, so I definitely feel like I have my days, but overall I'm definitely proud of the growth I do have. Like he said, like my patience levels have definitely increased drastically. I was never patient, you know, I'm always like short tempered and stuff like that. So I would say for the most part, I'm proud of how much I have grown, but I'm well aware that I have a lot to go, you know?
Your parents say the same exact thing too. It's like, it's, you know, hindsight is 20/20, right? So you're always looking back and see what you could do differently. But tomorrow you may make a different mistake again. And just so long as you're aware, you're cognizant of that and being aware of what you're doing is a big thing.
Yeah, I just want to, like you said, like we only have so much time, you know, like I have really a 2-hour window when I get home from work to be with them until he goes to bed. And then we have our hour and a half before we go to bed. You know? So it's like, I think that's the hardest part is like mapping out your days and really making sure on the weekends you capitalize and do something as a family.
Go, you know, have fun. Or,
exactly.
You know, bring them somewhere, the movies, the trampoline place.
Yeah. But overall, I would say I'm proud of where I'm at, but I definitely look forward to, you know, continuing to grow. Exactly.
I would say now, definitely, I'm proud to see where I've came versus like me sitting in my kitchen in the middle of the night, like wondering what the hell's going to happen. You know, what's 5 years for me look like? Where am I going to be? Are we going to thrive? Are we going to sink? And looking back now, like, you know, I did it. You know, you don't see transformation every day because you look in the mirror, just like going to the gym. And then one day you like look at yourself, oh, I did all right. Kid's alive still, we're good. She's fed.
Yeah.
But patience and like, you know, now she's older and she's more articulate with words and she's more aware. When she comes home, she's excited to see me. Like, that gives me such a good feeling, you know? Like, you know, we all work crazy hours, come home from work. it's hard to turn off work phone and
Yep.
put your dad hat on or be your spouse hat. And for the longest time, that was my biggest gripe. Bianca and I always go back because I'm always thinking about tomorrow or the case what I need to follow up on. And now I finally, I'm still working on it, but I'm like, I'm home.
So I noticed you have 2 phones. Is that because you did the work phone and
Yeah. Well,
So
I give it to it's great because before I used to have my work phone. It was my house, my regular phone. So it was like constantly, especially in the automotive industry, you got to be constantly just babysitting and doing all that stuff. You know it is. So it's like I had to, if I didn't get back with the message, oh my God, well, after 6 o'clock, no, I don't really care. I'll talk to you in the morning because I didn't know when to stop. I was so, saying back when having a family, just providing, making sure, because every day you got to eat, and so that was a constant struggle. But like now, like I can take, the weekend, the first time, longest time, my phone was in my bag and didn't care.
how magical was that?
Yeah, it's amazing. But then you get like Sunday scary, like, oh,
Yeah, Monday morning, you look at it, you're like, oh.
my phone was dead, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad.
So, but that's the thing is like all of us really in all of our spaces do need to be in constant communication. At least we think.
Yeah,
we need to be in
Yeah,
constant
that's the biggest thing you
communication.
think.
But it's not the end of the world, you know.
Yeah, and anything too, and it's part of the business aspect of owning or working for a company. It's like connectivity. It goes back to today's generation of like instant gratification, communication. Some people won't do something for you, so I had to learn to dial it back down, because you quickly get consumed by it and don't even realize it before it becomes a fight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I definitely want. I need to just pull the trigger and do it. I've been saying it for
Yeah.
a while now, but
I've taken the step back for sure, especially since Samantha, like just trying, like if I see emails and stuff coming through and it's Sunday, man, it's not
get to
Monday.
it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like I feel like we talked about this on the last episode too, but like I feel like life is so short.
yeah, absolutely.
And like, you just don't know. And like you keep thinking that like, oh well, I gotta rush to get this work done and like people depend on me. And like really like I saw a thing, this is a meme, but like the only people who are gonna remember that you worked late are your kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I saw that too.
So yeah,
that kind of
it made
got
me
me.
feel
that hits
icky,
home.
dude.
You're by the park line, you're like, ooh.
Yeah, it made me feel kind of icky. I read that. I was
Yeah, that
like,
got me.
she's gonna know that daddy was working like all the time. And like, look, I get it. Like, I do have to work. I do have to do what I have to do in order to have a good life and for her to have a good life. But like, I also need to make sure that like I'm putting in that quality time for sure. And I think me as a father like has changed so much. I've been like 3 different fathers. I feel like, I've kind of like the roommate early on. She didn't want anything to do with me.
Sure, living space. That's about it.
I was just like the money guy for a while.
Feeding me. That's it. Leave me alone.
That's
and then like it got to the point where I was like, okay, maybe I'm like 3rd on the list now. And like of course now I'm number 1, and and now it's kind of brought my fatherhood to a place that I don't think it ever would have been. And now she's like my little bestie.
Yeah.
And like she always wants to show me stuff and annoy the shit out of me, like saying the same thing over and over and over and over. Look. Despite going through my own loss, having to help her deal with her loss, I think it's gotten us to this place that I truly don't think would have existed, had what not happened.
different type of bond.
Yes.
Yeah, it's that shared experience. Those unfortunate, tragic situations that you go together.
Yep.
That shapes you guys in a bond to a core. I'm sure she'll truly appreciate it, because I feel like obviously for you have the weight times 10 to be mom and dad, and I can't imagine how that's got to be for you. But I feel like you've been doing pretty well with it, and I'm sure every day is something different. I'm sure
it is. Yeah,
but do you feel like you kind of got your rhythm down to it now, or obviously be a work in progress?
Yeah, it's better. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it was a culture shock at first.
Yeah.
Just from being the roommate dad to like being everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was messed up at first. It was really messed up. And like now we do have a routine. And granted, she fights my routine sometimes, but
A lot of resistance there.
at least she kind of has an understanding of, okay, like I pick you up from school, we come home, we eat dinner. You're not getting up until you're done eating. When it's time for bed, it is time for bed. There's no like ifs, ands, or buts about it. I lay there, I read three books to her every night. I sing her a song every single night, and I lay there for 10 minutes for every single night. So like we have our little thing.
Routine.
That's key.
That we do together, no matter what, So like as far as repetition, I have that down for sure. But there's definitely gonna be changes, I think, as she gets older.
Yeah.
As she ages, I'm gonna have to age with her, and I'm gonna have to kind of
Adapt.
pivot with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for like this age, I'm doing all right. we'll see what the future holds.
What would you say the key thing is? I'm assuming organization, right? Like, because you have to be organized in the schedule and everything, and like you said, have a routine. Would you say that's been like the key to navigating it thus far?
Yeah, I mean, and look, I'm a routine guy by nature. Okay, so I thrive with structure. Yeah, if you let me just flounder and do whatever I want, it's bad news for me. Okay, I need to be here at this time, do this. I'm going to the gym at this time. We're going to eat at this time. I need that personally in my life. So I've kind of just brought her with me.
Yeah,
that's good though, because that's what kids need.
That's good foundation. Yeah, long term, it's gonna be tenfold.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and it's so opposite than who Samantha was. Samantha was such a free-spirited, whatever.
Doesn't let things bother.
Let's wake up and just go to the beach whenever kind of girl. You know what I mean? And I think for Charlotte, it was a big change. For sure. Coming to this dad who is by the book. Yeah. And from this free-spirited mother. So I think she's gotten it down. And I do think the organization and the structure has been what has been key.
Do you feel that sometimes it's a struggle because you do? I would imagine that she almost needs that motherly, aspect at times. And obviously, look, you're a dude.
Yeah,
exactly.
I got that.
You can only do so much.
For
right?
sure. And look, I'm a testosterone fueled dad. Yeah. I can be loving and warm, of course, but I'm also when she acts up, there are times where I'm like, hey, cut it out. Mm-hmm. Pull your pants up. Let's get moving here. When I could maybe sit back and take the mom route of
nurturing.
Yes, exactly. And I think that has been the biggest struggle of knowing when to be that.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose.
Yeah, because there are times where I have done that and I know she's taking advantage of me.
Yeah.
She's smart.
Oh, for sure.
She's really smart. So I've had to really teeter that line of okay, so boom, here's a situation in front of me. Do I be dad or do I be mom right now? What do I do?
Yeah.
And I've definitely made the wrong choices before. Yeah. I've definitely yelled at her and gotten angry at her and later been I should have been way more understanding and compassionate in that moment. But then there are also times where I know she's playing me.
Yeah.
And it's okay, well, if you want to play me, then
I'll play right back.
Yeah, exactly.
I would assume that's just a girl dad in general. You probably have to go through that as well,
Yeah. I have a sister also. And so, but sister's tough as nails also. So she wasn't a teacup girl. She was tinkering cars with my dad. So, the delicate stuff, I'm still new to myself, tea parties, again, just to make up on. I'm all for it, no care about it. But the nurturing one where I'm my dad was hey,
yeah,
let's go. My dad was, like he said, structure, preparation is key to success. That's been his motto till the day he'll die. That's how he's been. I am the complete opposite of that. Bianca is structure, planned out to a T. We travel, we got itineraries, photocopy, laminate the whole nine.
See, I'm like you.
I'm hey, we'll just wake up and go figure it out. You know? And Mia is like me, but she does need routine to thrive, so it's a good balance there. But the delicate thing is, especially now where she's 4 or 5 age and she's, interacting with her kids, it's hey, you gotta be gentle. Or if someone pushes my kid in the playground,
oh
man,
I ain't ready.
Don't drop this kid. It's
Jason, I ain't ready for that.
Yeah, no. So we went to the park the other day and kids it goes I'm not a helicopter dad, but I'm at the park. I'm oh yeah, one, make sure I get abducted. 2, don't fight nobody. And 3, this one kid just drove on a bicycle and just popped her in the face.
What,
I was
dude?
Before I could realize, Mia just clocked her back, and they had this crazy cat fight. They're going on a bike and drove off. I'm what the hell just happened? But,
oh my god.
Yeah, it's fine until when she's upset, it's just okay, hey, speak the emotional part of her because she doesn't understand. So let me try to explain to her where she can kind of grasp that or whatever the case is. But delicate. I always wanted a boy first. I'm truly thankful I had a girl because
same.
It's something I always wanted a kid, but never really wanted to have kids. When I did, it was like I said, life changing. So having that now in my back of my mind, I'm more cognizant of hey, let's tailor this situation to what's going on versus how I would handle it. I'm more of an introvert. Bianca, as you know, you guys are, she's an extrovert. I'm super shy. When Mia just walks say hi to everybody, I'm okay, let's walk away from this guy. Yeah, I don't even with people and kids interacting, I'm still terrible at that.
I'm the same.
You my friends' kids, I'm oh, okay, what's up, man? all right, cool.
It's super awkward.
Yeah,
I'm the same.
Like a narc running around these kids. What's up, man? You like Legos? What? What the hell's wrong with you? So it's learning. Yeah, it's that's the whole thing. And now going into school events and kids in her class that are, but also to. Sometimes, when your parents went through to hang out with your friends, they may hate the parents, this guy sucks, but I do it for you. So I'm learning that now. Not saying most of those people suck, but it's some people, parents are very different. Yeah.
I let mom handle that. I don't make friends with other parents,
Yeah.
which is probably not a good thing. But she
No,
does it,
yeah.
So he gets his play dates
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, that's my biggest fear is you get in a room with another dad that you have nothing in common with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds just
Like,
like,
you
a
like sports?
nightmare.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What about the
Yeah.
weather?
Yeah.
Well, I don't give a shit about sports, but
Yeah, neither do I.
Luckily, most of my friends have kids.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I stick
and like
to.
Sam came from a very big family,
Yeah.
so she's got all her cousins and all that. It's that part's been kind of easy
That's
for me
easy,
so
'cause
far.
they can mingle on their own. You don't feel bad. They can
It's
just figure
been
it out.
easy
You
for
fight.
me. Yeah.
But it's like for same thing with like Bianca does the heavy lifting on that sector, but sometimes she'll work. So I took her to a kid's birthday party, and it was fun. And but learning also you judge other parents' parenting kind of like, oh, you could do this. So you're like, it's just a thing in your brain is just wired that way. So it's interesting.
Well, I think it's been a really good podcast, man.
as usual.
As
We're batting 1,000.
knock it out. Yeah, I think it's a really good. I think it's a conversation that we could even keep having. It's just
Honestly, this
was really good.
went by really fast.
It really,
did.
yes, I agree. And like, it's just such a vast topic, especially coming from three like completely different stories,
Perspectives, everything.
three completely different kids. It's just it's crazy how like while the details are different, the similarity and the feelings are there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's like what brings us together. So, Jason, man, we really want to thank you for coming on the
you guys.
podcast, man, and
Appreciate you guys
offering
having me
your
on.
perspective. We don't have too many guests on here. We try to be really selective on who we bring on and who's going to really bring value to the podcast. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me. Like, when I first watched you guys, I loved you guys, the space you guys created, because there's really not much stuff that hits in this level for people our generation too, other than like Rogan podcast, all the other stuff. But like, this is a perfect medium for that space, and it's great. 'Cause a lot of things, a lot of people don't or not mindful of having those things in there, so it's super cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on for sure.
Thanks for having me. I know it's been like a month overdue.
Yeah.
Planning this out.
Yeah.
It's hard, right?
It is
Life
difficult.
happened. I was like,
Two is hard enough.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
It was like, what, week 5.
He was like, yeah, the stars aligned. Like, there's like flights
Oh,
and
for sure.
work. It's hard, but
Yeah.
look, as usual, if you guys enjoyed, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Ring the bell, as Billy says. I don't know what the hell that means, but do it.
So
Follow
if
the
you don't
algorithm.
know, if you ring the bell, you're subscribed to notifications. So as soon as we upload, YouTube lets you know, hey, there's a new podcast.
There you go. All right, yeah, do that.
You should totally do that.
And I did talk to the editor about making sure that we get on Spotify and
And Apple Music and all that. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's also in the works. As usual, guys, we love you all. Peace out. Bye.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Dadtrepreneur. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for future episodes. Stay connected with us on Instagram @Dadtrepreneur Podcast. See you next time.